Okay, I want you to picture this. You're standing on a rocky limestone outcrop, right at the very edge of Europe. You can smell the salt in the air, but mostly, you just smell this overpowering, thick smoke. You are one of 7,000 men stranded on a beach, and you're watching your only ships, literally, your only ticket back home, burn down to ash. And the craziest part? They're burning on the orders of your own commander. Today, in this explainer, we're diving into one of the most audacious, high-stakes military maneuvers in all of human history. It's an event that completely and permanently reshaped the map of the world.
Burn them all. That stunning command came from Tariq bin Ziyad, who was a Berber commander serving the Umayyad Caliphate. Burn them all. Man, it really sends a chill down your spine when you fully grasp the context here. You see, this order completely threw out every single piece of conventional military doctrine of the time. I mean, the standard operating procedure for any invading force was, and frankly it still is today, to secure your supply lines, right? You keep your ships intact, you always leave yourself a back door, a path for retreat just in case things go sideways. But Tariq, well, he clearly wasn't interested in playing it safe. He was interested in absolute, unwavering commitment.
So, imagine the immense psychological weight of this next moment. Tariq gathers his 7,000 soldiers on the shore, points to the flames, and delivers this absolutely legendary speech. He tells them, "The sea is behind you, the enemy is before you, and you have nothing but your swords and your courage. There is no way for you but to cut your way through their ranks." Now, sure, historians go back and forth a bit on whether these were his exact literal words, since they were jotted down decades later by chroniclers who really leaned into the symbolism, but the core essence of that speech, absolutely undeniable. It perfectly captures the terrifying reality of their total isolation.
To truly wrap our heads around the gravity of this gamble, we really need to anchor ourselves in the timeline here. The year is 711 AD. This relatively small Umayyad army had just survived a really perilous crossing over the strait that separates North Africa from the Iberian Peninsula. So they were stepping foot onto completely unknown, hostile land ruled by the Visigoth kingdom. They were exhausted from the journey, miles and miles from home, and now completely cut off from anything familiar. Now, what's really interesting about these numbers is just the sheer, terrifying imbalance of the forces. On one side, you've got Tariq's force of 7,000 men. On the other side, King Roderick's massive Visigoth army, which historians estimate was sitting right around 30,000 strong. Facing such an overwhelming disadvantage, destroying your own ships seems, well, it seems like absolute madness, right? Why on earth would a commander intentionally trap his vastly outnumbered men on a hostile shore? Well, here is the strategic brilliance hiding inside that apparent madness. Just think about their reality for a second. No ships for retreat, zero reinforcements coming to save them, completely surrounded by hostile territory, no second chances. Tariq's gamble wasn't just some tactical maneuver. It was a profound psychological message directly to his own men. He was basically saying, listen, there is no safety net behind you anymore. The only way out is forward. Because when you completely remove the option to flee, when survival basically equals victory, soldiers fight completely differently. They fight with this desperate, unstoppable fury, because they literally have absolutely nothing left to lose.
And you know, that desperate fury was put to the test almost immediately. Let's talk about the number 8. That is the number of consecutive days these exhausted, vastly outnumbered men fought in the blistering late July heat. See, King Roderick had been up in the north dealing with a rebellion, but the second he heard about the invasion, he rushed his massive army south. The two forces violently slammed into each other near the Guadalete River, and for 8 agonizing days the battle just raged. Tariq's men, with no boats to run back to, had absolutely no choice but to hold the line.
Finally, on the 8th day, the Visigoth army completely collapsed. But what happened next is, honestly, one of history's great eerie mysteries. King Roderick, the commander of this massive 30,000-strong force, he just vanished. Seriously, his body was never found on the battlefield. All that was left behind, just sitting there abandoned on the muddy bank of the river, was his heavily jeweled saddle and his royal garments. The head of the entire Visigoth kingdom had just evaporated, leaving this absolutely massive power vacuum in his wake. What happens next is a campaign of breathtaking, almost incomprehensible speed. Seriously, the domino effect here is wild. Late July, they win at Guadalete. Just weeks later, Tariq's forces surge forward and actually capture the great city of Cordoba. A few months after that, Toledo, the very capital of the Visigoth kingdom, falls. By the end of that single summer, this stranded army of 7,000 men had seized control of almost the entire Iberian Peninsula. One army, one summer, and an entire kingdom is just gone. The speed of that conquest is still completely staggering to study today. And this perfectly illustrates the massive historical ripple effect of that one single decision on the beach. I mean, we go from a short, decisive campaign, fought by a single army in one summer, to a sprawling legacy that lasted for 8 centuries. Turk's impossible victory established an Umayyad presence in Europe that endured for nearly 800 years. And it wasn't just a military occupation either. It completely changed the cultural face of Europe and kicked off this unprecedented era of human achievement.
This whole era became known as Al-Andalus, which is the Arabic name for the Iberian Peninsula, and it really blossomed into this vibrant intellectual golden age. The cities they built, like Córdoba, they became some of the largest, most advanced metropolitan centers on the entire planet. It was this beautiful, thriving melting pot of Arab, Amazigh, and European traditions. Actually, this society ended up preserving ancient Greek philosophy that might have otherwise been completely lost to history. They pushed the boundaries of mathematics, they made critical breakthroughs in medicine, and they pioneered these stunning innovations in engineering and architecture. And a lot of that knowledge would eventually filter out and spark massive progress across the rest of Europe.
And here's a mind-blowing little fact for you. This legacy is literally etched into the world we know today, right down to the maps we use. You know that famous limestone outcrop where Tariq first landed, where those ships burned? Well, today we call it Gibraltar. But, and a lot of people don't know this, Gibraltar isn't a Latin word. It's not Visigothic either. It actually comes from the Arabic Jabal Tariq, which literally translates to the Mountain of Tariq. The commander's name is permanently carved into the physical geography of the exact place where he made his ultimate gamble. History quite literally etched his name into stone.
But beyond geography, that single moment gave human language an incredibly powerful idiom. Even today, when we talk about burning your ships or burning your boats in business or in life, we are directly referencing this exact historical event from 711 AD. It has become the ultimate universal symbol for total commitment. It represents that terrifying but super powerful decision to just completely eliminate the middle ground. It forces a binary outcome. You either achieve absolute victory or you face complete annihilation. There is no safe retreat.
Which brings us to the really profound takeaway of this explainer today. Tariq bin Ziyad understood something fundamental about human nature. As long as his men had a safety net, they were never going to fight to their absolute full potential. They needed the impossible pressure of having no way out in order to achieve the impossible. So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with this thought to reflect on in your own life, your own projects, your own goals. What safety nets are holding you back right now? What ships do you need to burn to finally ensure your own victory?